be a no-brainer. That's not going to be a problem there. The fight that I think is going to be the one that is going to be open to question is the Shane Mosley, Canelo Alvarez fight, because of the fact that this guy's young, and they think that Mosley is done, but I'm wondering if he got enough for one last fight, man. That's
the two type fights in it.
There's only two. The ones you should win and the ones you have to win. That's all. This is the Bobby Miles, fight trainer, ex-boxer, fight promoter in residence. Started boxing at the age of 9 in Cincinnati, Ohio, following my cousin, Ezzard Charles, around as a kid. Went to Woodward High School in Cincinnati, graduated from Woodward High School, was a football player, baseball player, track man, car excellence in Cincinnati. Started boxing while I was coming in the amateurs, fought in the amateurs, went from there into the military, started boxing in the Air Force under the auspices of the United States Air Force. Was pretty successful as a military boxer, won championships in the Far East, Northern Conference championships and whatnot. In the Pacific, was trained by the inimitable referee in professional boxing, Rudy Battle, who was my trainer in the military, who is now the boxing commissioner of the state of Philadelphia. As I've said, I've been a boxer, a trainer, a manager, and a promoter. In the process, I've trained fighters Davey Moore, Iran Barkley, Kenny Mitchell, Maurice Blocker, Simon Brown, to name a few. Most recently trained Michael Grant in his title quest for the heavyweight championship. Met Aaron Davis when he was an amateur, and we struck a resonant chord there, and we decided to do some things on a professional plan. I worked with Aaron for the past 4 years, Aaron Davis boxing, and we are getting ready to embark on a boxing program of our own at the professional level. Right now we have a gym full of aspiring boxers, but we've got about 4 boxers that we are targeting specifically out of Aaron's gym. That would be David Saunders, is the preeminent fighter. He is the one that we're going to showcase from the beginning. He is a junior welterweight that Aaron has been working with for the past 4 years. We feel that very shortly we're going to be embarking with him on a professional career. We also have a young man, Ronnie Lott, who is a cruiserweight, ex-football, college football player, an athlete. We have Jacob Lavi, who is another fighter that Aaron is training. And then we have a super heavyweight named Kareem R. that we'll be working with in the not too distant future. That would be the initial program that we'll be doing. So I would suggest that you look forward to some upcoming bouts. I've got a program that I want to initiate that's very innovative, and there's no question in our mind that we're going to be successful because we've got the talent to be successful. Before I started hanging around the gyms at 9 years old, following my cousin Ezzard Charles, whom I'm sure if you're a boxing fan, you know who he was. In my estimation, he is or was, since he has no longer with us, but he is in my estimation the greatest fighter that ever lived. He was the best fighter as an amateur. He was the best fighter in every division that he fought in as a professional. And that was middleweight, light heavyweight, and ultimately he became the heavyweight champion of the world. He was known as the Cincinnati Cobra. So I think that when you do your research, you'll find out who and what he was as a fighter. I'm sure you recognize the fact that Cincinnati is also a hotbed of boxers.
It is.
We have had several famous fighters coming out of that city because that's one of the main things that we do in that area. Boxing, generally we're athletic, but boxing is the thing that has really made a big impact with fighters coming out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and the state of Ohio. As I said, I mentioned Ezzard. In addition to Ezzard, there was also Ike Williams, who I think was a great fighter, great lightweight champion. We also had another guy out of Cincinnati, Ohio, who was a very, very good welterweight. Never was a champion, but a very, very good fighter named George Shibukasa. That's another fighter that I grew up under. Watching him, Wallace Bud Smith, a Cincinnati product, who did become a champion. Aaron Pryor, who is somewhat of a contemporary, who was also a world champion. Then we've had several other fighters out there, Tony Tubbs, Larry Donald, Charlie Banks, who was a good light heavyweight back in those days. Cincinnati is known for its boxers. So, that's just a few that I could name there. Eddie Bergen, another young fighter out of Cincinnati back in those times, who was a featherweight contender. As I say, we could go on and on extolling the virtues of Ohio boxing and Cincinnati in particular. That's basically what the foundation is. Joe was the greatest heavyweight of all times, in my estimation. They talk about Dempsey, they talk about all these other guys, but in my estimation, but then again, like I say, the record speaks for itself. The man was the heavyweight champion of the world for 12 years. So that says it all right here, And,
what about Sugar Ray Robinson?
I don't detract from the man's accomplishments and all that, but as I've said before in reference to that, he made his reputation fighting white fighters. Not to say that there weren't some good white fighters, but that's who he made his reputation fighting. He never fought any of the guys from the black murderers of the world, like Charlie Burley, Eddie Booker, Jack Chase, or any of those guys. None of those guys did he ever fight. And the great black fighters that he fought, like Henry Armstrong, guys like that were on the downside when he finally fought them. As I said, I don't take anything away from Ray as a fighter, because he definitely was a great fighter. But like I said again, I cast my vote as the greatest fighter was Ezzard Charles. and also Joe Louis, in my estimation. Those are the two greatest fighters. Ali was a better fighter as an amateur than he was as a pro. When he became a professional fighter, he went into a lot of theatrics and whatnot, you know. And as I said, I think he was a better fighter as an amateur than he was as a pro. Another guy who I put in the great category, who never got the credit that he should, who was very much like Ezzard, was Larry Holmes, who I think was a better heavyweight than Ali. But in both of those instances, Ezzard came along after Joe Louis, and people somewhat resented the fact because of the fact that he was so great, meaning Joe. And Larry was unfortunate to come along behind Ali, who I feel he was a better fighter. So there you are. Mike Tyson is a product of his times. He had problems with all big heavyweights. You know, I predicted that Buster Douglas would beat him, and he did soundly. Evander Holyfield beat him soundly. You know, Lennox Lewis beat him soundly. Mitchell Green, if he had asserted himself, would have beat him. So, you know, like I say, Mike is a product of this time. And he was a good puncher, things like that, but he was really a 4-round fighter. If you got him past the 4th round, he wasn't a problem, you know. Contemporary fighters, my favorite fighters are in this order: James Toney, Bernard Hopkins, Floyd. Like I say, he's a well-schooled fighter, but in my opinion, I think guys like Ike Williams and people like that, Roberto Duran, these are guys that he couldn't have handled, in my estimation. But he's the best fighter of this time, so I'll leave it at that. All exceptional fighters. Leonard, I've known since I met when he was 16 years old. So, and I predicted then when I first met him that he would be a champion. Thomas, yeah. These guys came along with my little homeboy Aaron Pryor. You know, these guys, those were the last really great fighters, in my estimation, when you had a collective group of fighters. The Roberto Duran, the Aaron Pryors, the Alexis Aguayars. Now you have a fighter who stands out. Then it was hard to choose because everyone was well schooled in the art of boxing, which is something that you don't get now. That's what sets Mayweather apart from most of these guys. However, as well as he can box, I take exception to the fact that he does not finish. Let me say this to you about that. Now, as time has progressed, they've broken down boxing into segments. Like somebody that's a physical a trainer. You have another guy who's a conditioner. You know, but the sum total of it all is that fighters, trainers in the past were teachers. These guys now are conditioners. I don't see a whole lot of really great trainers in this era. You know, I've seen some sufficient trainers, but I don't, the people that they're calling great trainers in this era, I don't see it. Because most of the guys who are getting all the accolades now are getting fighters who are already finished fighters. When I say finished fighters, they were taught by someone else. And now these people are working with them. And people associate them with the fighter as if they were the ones who really made the fighter, but they didn't. You know, I don't look at it that way. So, like I say, there are some guys out there now that are, you know, decent trainers, but I don't really see anybody that would compare with the trainers of the past, like Jack Blackburn or Ray Arcel, Whitey Bimstein, Charlie Goldman. Those guys were teachers. These guys now are conditioners. And that's the difference. Floyd Mayweather Sr. is an old school trainer. He's a good trainer. I have to acknowledge he's a good trainer. He's an old school trainer. His brother Roger is a good trainer. But like I say again, I don't see great trainers now like you had in the past, like the Blackburns, the Arcels, the Bimstein, the Goldmans. I have not seen any of those kind of trainers. The closest thing that I would say that would fall in that purview is my late friend and associate, maybe Emmanuel Stewart. But Emmanuel had a lot of help out there in front with guys like Luther Burgess and Mr. Walter Johnson and people like that. So, you know, that's about the extent of it as far as I'm concerned. You know. Well, as I said, I've got David Saunders, but none of these guys have, they've been in the gym for 4 or 5 years, so they've been learning their craft. But we've yet to embark upon that long trail in terms of fighting competitively. But I can see that these guys have the potential to be some outstanding fighters. Like I said, David Saunders, Ronnie Love, guys like that we have in the gym. They're potentially good elements.